I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, justifying the use of deadly force. There's a new report tonight covering officer-involved shootings in San Diego. We'll break down the trends revealed and details about the suspects caught in the crossfire.
And San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulkner joins us for an update on the controversy over the Charger Stadium Task Force and what to do about problem landlords. I'm Peggy Pico. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. County and city law enforcement, as well as the district attorney, released a new study that looks back on 20 years of officer-involved shootings. KPBS reporter Matt Bowler is following the story tonight. He joins us from the newsroom. Matt, first, give us some of the details of this report.
Well, the report covers officer-involved shootings from 1992 to 2012. It was prepared by the DA's in-house data team. They went over every one of those shootings in that 20-year time period. There were 358 incidents with 367 people shot by police. 57% of the shootings were fatal, and most happened during traffic stops. And 66% of those who were shot were on drugs, with meth being the most common.
And of course, we've heard about officer-involved shootings. They've been making the national headlines, especially those involving men of color. Does this report speak to that at all?
Well, according to the study's 20-year averaging, the ethnicity of people shot by police officers are 37% white, 36% Latino, and 19% African American. But SDPD Chief Shelley Zimmerman says that doesn't reflect today's San Diego.
To take a look at the history of 20 years is a large amount of time, but we also need to take a look at the more recent time. So we took a look at the last 5 years, because over the last 20 years, demographics have changed. But not only that, but training has changed, technology has changed.
Matt, what does the DA hope to gain from this report?
District Attorney Dumanis says they are putting out the report with the hope of increasing transparency and improving relationships. And while the information may not always be flattering, she's confident that if you bring an objective mind to it, more information can only improve the relationship between San Diego County law enforcement and the people they serve.
You know, we build trust by being there, being accountable, and not being afraid of the information. That's where I think we get into trouble, is if you fear the knowledge, then people wonder why you're not providing it.
Dumanis says her department is going to continue to build this database and adding all new officer-involved shootings. And we have the full report at kpbs.org.
Reporter Matt Bowler. New changes may be on the way to DNA evidence collection here in California. Voters approved Proposition 47 last year. Former San Diego Police Chief Bill Lansdowne was one of the bill's sponsors. It called for more lenient sentences for crimes like drug possession and theft. Prop 47 reduced those crimes from felonies to misdemeanors. Now, more than 250,000 inmates are exempt from DNA collection. A new bill introduced today may change that. Authorities say it's necessary because DNA evidence may link them to more violent crimes like sexual assault or murder. Hospital officials in Los Angeles say contaminated medical instruments are to blame for infecting 7 patients with an antibiotic-resistant superbug. UCLA says the bacteria may have been a contributing factor in 2 deaths. More than 170 patients may be infected. The university says they've been sent free home testing kits that UCLA will analyze. Hospitals across the country have reported similar exposures in recent years. We pulled a year's worth of formal complaints against landlords in San Diego, and one name stuck out in the stack: Ben Keem Shaw. What also stuck out, little accountability for problem landlords. Megan Burks reports in this joint investigation of KPBS and Voice of San Diego.
His apartments dot the map from City Heights to Ocean Beach. But Keem Shaw's tenants have a lot in common, starting with empty kitchen cabinets. Most can't be used for food. Anything that's not double-bagged and tucked into a heavy-duty storage box or the refrigerator will have roaches crawling in it come morning. Karina Villanueva has learned to cope, wiping down surfaces in her Barrio Logan studio with bleach morning and night. Her 7- and 4-year-old sons have gotten used to the roaches too.
By now, they're like, whatever. But before I was like, no, there's a cockroach.
But Villanueva couldn't ignore the mold that appeared above her shower a few months after the family moved in. First spots, then a blanket of dark mold. Her husband repeatedly asked to have it cleaned up. When that didn't work, they began withholding rent. Still no repairs. Then Villanueva's family doctor suggested the mold could be causing her son's asthma. He'd gone from taking 1 medication to 7.
He takes this every day. And this one.
So last September, Villanueva called in a city inspector.
He was like, whoa, don't even take a shower here. And he's like, can you keep your door closed like all the time so it won't go like to your kids? But he just took pictures and he's like, oh, I can't help you on this. He just told me to look it up in the internet.
So he just told you to Google?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you didn't catch that, Villanueva says the inspector told her to Google mold. That's the other thing Shaw's tenants have in common, little recourse. Stacks of formal complaints against Shaw show the city's essentially playing a game of whack-a-mole. The city's code enforcement team knocks out thousands of isolated complaints a year, but does little to hold repeat offenders accountable.
There's really no reason why landlords need to fear code compliance.
Mark Whittam is a tenants' rights attorney and immediately recognized Shaw's name. Shaw owns nearly 90 properties, and residents and city staff have filed 62 complaints against him since 2001. About a third of them were for conditions state law says no one should have to live in: gas leaks, sewage backups, no hot water, and armies of roaches. Shaw would not agree to an interview for this story, but said in a brief phone call he's quick to send out repairmen when they're needed. But tours from several tenants revealed active infestations, mold, and sagging floors. The California Health and Safety Code gives local code enforcement units the power to do anything from press civil and criminal charges to seize property to get landlords to comply. But that's not happening in San Diego. The city attorney's office settles most substandard housing cases out of court for administrative fees and relocation costs for tenants. Whittam says that's not sending a clear enough message.
I have no doubt in my mind that if you call out some of the worst offenders and say, these laws matter, and you will meet the full force and weight of the city attorney's office if you do not believe so, would change things. It would make a difference.
The only time Shaw has met the full force of the city attorney's office, when it took him to court for renting to a medical marijuana dispensary. Yet Deputy Director of Code Compliance Mike Richmond says his staff can't build substantial cases against problem landlords.
With our current staffing levels, we don't really have an ability to be proactive where we're going out searching around for things. However, the communities are very good at reporting things to us. So we, if there are problems out there, we'll hear about it, we'll get a report, and then we'll open a case and go investigate. We have to look at every case individually.
But inspectors have shown they can proactively root out violations just at properties where no one lives. They've waged a high-profile campaign against illegal marijuana dispensaries, and in recent years they've cracked down on blighted foreclosures and mini-dorms. Whittam says those priorities have left tenants with little option but to move. Karina Villanueva moved her family into a new affordable housing development in December. I gave her a call earlier this month. She said her kids have stopped using their asthma medicine altogether. So a happy ending? Whittam says not exactly.
From a public policy perspective, that's not a satisfactory resolution. When everybody is expected to just move on every 18 months, children have to change schools. You don't get to know your neighbors. That causes communities to fracture, causes poor performance in school.
Councilman David Alvarez represents Villanueva's district, and while he helps prioritize dispensaries and foreclosures in code enforcement, he said it's time to shift gears.
I think that the city attorney has showed that if you want to make something a priority, you can.
Alvarez is exploring a program that would put liens on properties until their owners clean them up, and the city is considering more funds for code compliance in its next budget. Megan Burks, KPBS News.
From what the city will do about problem landlords to controversy over the Charger Stadium Advisory Group, Peggy Pico talks with Mayor Kevin Faulkner in his monthly update on city business.
San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulkner, welcome back.
Hey, great to be back. Thank you.
All right. Now, after attending a stadium advisory group meeting, Charger spokesman Mark Fabiani sent you a letter raising concerns of conflict of interest and suggesting that your appointed task force is not as independent as earlier stated. Why is Jason Rowe, your former election consultant and lobbyist, attending a stadium committee meeting?
You know, I think a lot of people were scratching their head about the tone and the tenor of those remarks from Mr. Fabiani. I mean, San Diegans and Charger fans are all alike. We're saying, wait a second, shouldn't we be working together? Not surprised. This is a group that I put together, all volunteers. They're asking people to come to the table, not only from, policy issues, political issues, because ultimately this will go before the voters, we hope, in a ballot measure. And so I want them to have the wide-ranging group of all kinds of folks to come in and give them the input that we need to get a plan, but most importantly, financing, and one that voters will ultimately approve.
So was Jason Rowe, maybe his purpose there, was that about the possible election on this, a possible voter ballot on this?
The group invited him in to do that, to say, how can we make sure that we achieve success? Because this is all about success. They're going to be inviting San Diego State in, coming up here. I want all stakeholders together to give us our best opportunity, the best plan that voters can ultimately weigh in on, and it works for taxpayers.
Well, speaking about that, you wrote a rebuttal letter, and in it you asked or suggested a one-on-one meeting with Charger owner Dean Spano. Yeah. So what is the purpose of that meeting, and will it be taking place?
It's important that, this is an important issue for San Diego. It's important that we're working together. I mean, you look at the success that we had as a city working together with the Padres, what Petco Park has meant. We achieve success when we work together, not some of the sniping that we saw, unfortunately. And I'm going to be very clear about, I'm interested in success, and I'm interested in letting the group do its job, give them a chance to come up with a great plan. I think they can do that.
Would you support, you mentioned this voter going to before the ballot, would you support a tax to build a new stadium?
I don't know that that's necessary. I've said, look at all of the issues that have gone on in other stadiums across the country. Look at issues of land, look at issues of revenue that you get from marketing, naming rights, others. What's the best plan and the best package that makes sense for San Diegans, and most importantly, that protects taxpayers? So I'm spending a lot of time on reform at City Hall, investing dollars back into our neighborhood. I won't support a plan that doesn't protect taxpayers, but I know that if we work together, we have the opportunity to really be successful.
Well, a few minutes ago, we aired a KPBS investigative report on how city code enforcers are not doing anywhere near what the law provides to prosecute landlords who repeatedly violate health and safety codes. The disturbing results showed families sick from living in homes infested with roaches, mold, no hot water, and other illegal conditions. What are you going to do to address this issue?
Disturbing is right. And to see conditions like that should not exist in any part of San Diego. That's unacceptable. And not only I think it's an issue of code enforcement, making sure that they're out there and with enough code enforcement officers, but I think this story really strikes to the heart of what's the strategy and how we're going after particularly individuals that seem to have problem properties. It's not just one-offs. We need to target some of those individuals and send a very clear, compelling message. That type of living condition will never be tolerated in the city, and I'm looking forward to taking strong action on that.
And will you be talking to the city attorney's office about that? Because I understand it falls under their jurisdiction.
We're talking with our city attorney's office. I'll be talking with code enforcement, make sure we have the resources that we need, but have them hear very clearly from myself as mayor, we're going to go after conditions like that. It should never exist in any city in the country.
Well, on a different note, earlier today, you toured Southeast San Diego with business leaders to look for new development opportunities. Did you find any? And if so, what kind of properties are you looking at?
You know, it was a great morning, and I was out there with Councilmember Myrtle Cole. We had over 80 people on this bus, and it was all about opportunity. I think you hit the nail on the head. We have a community that supports economic development. It's about creating good jobs. We looked at a lot of sites that have the opportunity for new affordable housing, retail, shops. I'm a big believer that seeing is believing. And so you can't just talk about, here's some properties on a map. We've said, come to Southeast San Diego. Let's spend the morning looking at it. It was a great, we hoped we might get 40 people. We had 80 people. Community leaders, business leaders, financial institutions. I'm really excited about the opportunities.
So next step?
Next step is we got some projects and land that are out there. We're putting out requests for qualifications. We told folks, come on in. You've got a city, you've got political leadership, and you've got a community that says we want that economic development, and great partnership between myself and Councilmember Myrtle Cole.
All right, Mayor Kevin Faulkner, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Look forward to seeing you next month.
Thousands of San Diego troops are on board the USS Carl Vinson, and they're playing a major role in the fight against the self-proclaimed Islamic State. KPBS reporter Susan Murphy talked to the ship's commanding officer about the mission.
Every day, warplanes roar off the flight deck of the USS Carl Vinson in the northern Arabian Gulf. They're striking terror targets in Iraq and Syria as part of Operation Inherent Resolve. That's the U.S.-led coalition battling the self-proclaimed Islamic State. Aboard the massive aircraft carrier are 5,300 San Diego-based troops. The ship's commanding officer, Captain Carl Thomas, says 6 months into the deployment, his crew is going strong.
Our mission is to provide the striking arm when we get some targets from the folks that are planning it. We also have aircraft that are airborne that if somebody on the ground needs assistance, we're up there to provide that assistance.
U.S. forces have flown more than 10,000 strike missions since September, launching GPS-guided bombs and sorties. The targets are directed by Iraqi commanders and U.S. intelligence. Still, Thomas says progress is slow.
But I can tell you that when we first arrived, certainly ISIS had a lot more freedom of movement. They certainly were able to coordinate and orchestrate their effort better than they can today. They certainly are a capable force, but at the same time, they're kind of hunkered down because they know if they stick their head up too much, it might get lopped off.
Thomas says he's encouraged by the number of countries in the coalition working together at sea and in the air.
Certainly, the U.S. has a lot of leadership and capability, and we bring an awful lot to the fight. But the fact that we do have coalition partners from these countries that are in this area, that's a very positive sign. They realize the threat.
The USS Carl Vinson will be deployed for about 3 more months before returning to San Diego. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
The U.S. debut of the exhibit 7 Billion Others opens tomorrow night at the Museum of Photographic Arts in Balboa Park. Peggy Pico has a preview.
What did you learn from your parents? What meaning does life have for you? What is love? Those are a few of the same 45 questions answered by 6,000 people from 84 countries in the 7 Billion Others exhibit.
Cita-cita saya sewaktu kecil, saya ingin menjadi pilot.
Mi gran sueño cuando era niño era ser piloto.
I wanted to be a pilot.
Da bambino sognavo di essere un pilota d'aereo.
J'avais décidé de devenir aviatrice.
I wanted to be a pilot.
Ik wou piloot worden. Ik wou vliegen.
All I wanted to do was be a jet fighter pilot.
Una persona aviadora. Yo pensaba, yo quiero ser aviador, yo quiero.
Mon rêve, c'était de devenir pilote.
Joining me is 7 Billion Others creator, photographer, and filmmaker Jan Actus Bertrand, and project manager and curator Gili Kenyon. And Jan, you're well known for these epic-sized photography projects of the Earth from above. Where did you get the idea for 7 Billion Others?
Very shortly, one day I have an accident with an helicopter, and I have a small accident, and for 2 days I stay in a family in Africa. And these people are, the subsistence farmer, people who are working every day, the ground, only for food. They're not selling anything. They don't know how to ride, don't know how and these people to read, and these people they have nothing. And they learn me so many things, so the important thing in my life, what is happiness, what I want to change in my life. So for 2 days I was with this family very close, and they have learned so much things to me. So I decided to do a big project, and I send 10 teams around the planet doing interview and asking the same 40 questions to everybody around the planet. And this question is some question I think you need to ask every day. What is the meaning of life? I'm happy. What have to change in my life to be more happy? And these people give you a little bit the answer. And I think it's a very important exhibition because not me, the people are brilliant, and also this can change your life a little bit. So I think it's go to see it.
It can change your life, and I'm going to come back to that because that's too tantalizing. Galit, I understand that in some cultures it was more difficult than others to get answers to what might appear as simple questions. For instance, what is love or what is happiness? Why was it difficult?
It might be difficult, for example, in some languages, the word itself doesn't exist. We were speaking about Maasai tribes a few minutes ago, and in Maasai, for example, the word happiness doesn't exist. So the translator has to explain the concept itself before the person can answer. Or in other languages, the word love can be very different if you're speaking about love of a sibling, love of a lover, love of your friends or something like that. So it's always very interesting the way you can, and also in some culture people are very shy, and speaking about very personal, very intimate stories might be more difficult.
Now, you mentioned, Jan, the strong sense of humanity in 7 Billion Others, and from the pieces I've seen, it's very evident and quite moving. What is it about this exhibit that you think will really resonate with people here in San Diego?
I think the 17th exhibition we do around the planet is always very successful. And I think the people talking is you talking, it's not somebody else. It's very funny how you understand, is you talking about. And sometimes it's very hard, If I ask you the question, what is the worst thing happened in your life and what have you learned from it? Everybody can understand it's a very difficult question. If you answer this question and you know, because this interview is for 1 hour interview, it's not interview very quickly. It's like you go to psychologist, you open your heart and you don't know the people who are filming you. So you can say things you have never said before. So even for the people who are interviewed, is something is new and it's a very nice experience. People crying a lot, and often sometimes people say, okay, what I say I don't want to put on the air. Yes, because for example...
And you honored that.
Yeah, sure. If you go to Pakistan, for example, the women have very few rights, and if you are beaten or something like that, you don't want all the world says that. So it's an amazing... Okay, anyway, go to see the exhibition.
Go see the exhibit.
Yes, I cannot speak for them.
Let me tell folks where it is. It's opening on Saturday night at the Museum of Photographic Arts in Balboa Park. Jan and Galit, merci beaucoup.
So what is happiness for you?
I can answer that. It's peace. It's peace.
Exactly. Voilà. Merci, madame.
I'm Gwen Eiffel on the next news hour. From ransom to oil riches. Paul Salman on the economics of terrorism. That's Thursday on the PBS NewsHour.
Professional hockey returns to San Diego later this year. The new team will be the minor league affiliate of the Anaheim Ducks. KPBS's Matt Hoffman shows us just how popular the sport has been in San Diego.
Back within 2. A lot of time here, Jeff. 4-2 is our score. 16:56 left in the third.
Hockey has a rich history here in San Diego, dating back to the late 1940s when the Skyhawks played at Glacier Gardens downtown. But it wasn't until the Gulls arrived in 1966 that hockey was truly established in San Diego. Willie O'Ree was the first black man ever to play in the NHL, and he would spend 7 seasons with the Gulls starting in 1967. He remembers what it was like on a typical weekend.
I knew the fan appreciation, how the fans supported the team, because when I come down in the weekends, they'd have over 14,000 here in the sports arena.
Milliken goes behind his net over to the far side, flicked up there by Petruk, but nice play held in by St. Amor.
Martin St. Amor played with the Gulls from 1995 until 2003 before becoming the team's coach and general manager.
It was kind of weird at first, really. Going to the arena in shorts and T-shirts year-round and playing hockey in Southern California.
Both St. Amor and O'Ree were Canadians who fell in love with the San Diego community and still live here today. O'Ree says Gulls players back in his day were treated like celebrities.
And everybody knew you. I mean, not by playing on the ice, but even, if you were in a restaurant or if you were in a gas station.
In 1995, Ron Hahn, son of San Diego developer Ernest Hahn, purchased the team. His son, Ernie, ran day-to-day operations, and he has fond memories of some of the out-of-town games.
Anchorage, I remember, because a couple of the big bar fights that happened after that. We were all staying in the same place, so they all have their memories.
A battle so big that officials almost immediately suspended the rest of the game.
Between 1995 and 2003, the Gulls won 5 Taylor Cups, due partially to a quirky tradition. St. Amor recalls their locker room music during those winning years.
There was always this song by, I can't remember the name of the group now, but there was this song we had to listen to before we go on the ice for 5 years. The guys were just sick of it.
The Gulls became the Colorado Avalanche's minor league affiliate in 2004, but the Hans had slowly begun to lose money. It was mid-2006 when St. Amour was called into Ron's office.
Ron just went through the numbers again and with Ernie, and Ron says, well, here's the deal. I can't lose that much money anymore. I just can't. You can't do it, and we're going to have to, let go of the team.
It would take 8 years for professional hockey to return to San Diego. Now that it has, Ernie Hahn, now the general manager of the Valley View Casino Center where the new team will play, is very excited.
Let's make hockey a really big thing again and celebrate it because it's here to stay.
The team will hold a fan fest on February 22nd at the Valley View Casino Center, also known as the Sports Arena. There, they will reveal their official name and logo. Although nothing is set in stone, it looks like the historic Gulls name will be back on Sports Arena Boulevard. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. You have a great night.